And what about politics?
I don't give a shit.
You don't find it a great
I really don't care
treasure
about politics.
trove of
Some people
material?
do. I don't. I think the system is corrupt. Every time I'm walking on the street, somebody's like, hey, vote for so-and-so. I'm like, it's all corrupt. Anarchy is the only way we're going to change anything. Politician. That's the only way you can change.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you're joking.
No.
Are you serious?
Yeah, voting is not going to make a difference. It has never. Not in 100 years.
So what would you like to see?
I'd like to see some politicians start getting reform this government.
Oh my
God. Do one that's not corrupted. I'd like to get business out of government, and they're not going to do it. So the only way to do this is start people.
The sad part is he's actually telling the truth when it comes to this. This is not to say I want somebody to go outside and do something to politicians. That's not what I'm saying. But the point is that things don't change unless people have a reason to change them. And by you just circling a bubble and saying, I vote for you is not going to change anything. Nothing has changed over the course of time that the people want. A perfect example of that is the Epstein files right now. If you really think about it, the Epstein files, if you asked any American, do you think PDF files should be thrown in jail? I can guarantee you the majority of Americans would say yes. The vast majority, 90+% would say yes. And the 10% or less that would say no are PDF files themselves, right? So if all Americans, or at least the majority, remember this is democracy, the majority rules. If the majority of Americans can say, this is what we want, why don't we have that? Why is it okay for people to come here from even foreign countries, do things to the young ones, and then be able to flee and leave peacefully? No problem. That is not something that the people voted for. Taxes wasn't even a thing. It was supposed to be temporary. Yet we all are paying taxes now. How many American people would vote for us to work hard and then have our taxes taken out to not only feed the government and all their shenanigans, to give it to everybody else around the world, while people here struggle? No American would be like, yeah, that's what I want. But yet it's happening, and it's happening by the people you voted for. So to think that you're going to just circle a bubble and then your life is going to change, it's not. It was really not. So he has some truth to that.
Is that exactly what
Look around the world. How has anything changed around the world? How has any regime change happen around the world? That's the only way. You think people in Arab countries are that much different than us?
The only reason why politicians move the way the politicians move, Epstein is waking up everybody. It's because you have to either have something on them, or they have to, whether it's threatening their life or threatening their livelihood. And then they start to move accordingly. That's just like human nature. So now all of a sudden, when it comes to Epstein and when it comes to all these politicians, they are only going to move in the direction you push them to. I don't think circling a bubble and saying, yeah, hey, we want this is going to get us far, because it always has a contingency attached to it. We as the people don't get anything that we really want unless it's a byproduct of whatever they want. Politicians don't even work. They're openly saying that they're not 100% America first. They don't even care about that. Now they're saying like, yo, nah, I have other interests. And the only reason I even came to serve in America is for other interests. And everybody's like, okay, no problem. Come on.
Yeah.
That's the only way you depose a system that doesn't represent the people anymore.
I mean, I think the wonderful thing about the United States is that we can vote, and you do change administration.
Your vote doesn't go anywhere. Your vote doesn't do anything.
Yes, it does.
You can now be arrested and never tried if they say you're a terrorist. Never tried in your life. Just arrested and held forever. Who voted for that?
So
No, not them all. Start them until they get business out of politics and they start representing who we are instead of their money interests. Yeah, violence. That's the only way shit changes, man.
Okay.
Look at history.
Why are politicians even able to take money and bribery from anybody else? That's what it is, bribery. So if you can get bribed as a politician, how can you be serving the people, us, the people, but you take money from big corporations and you do whatever's in the special interest of the big corporations? How does that even make sense? So that means you're entitled to do stuff that these people say. So even the presidential election, any election, these people are taking advantage of our politicians, which means they're taking advantage of us. Because we're the idiots that put them there only for the big corporations to do whatever they feel like with them.
Tell me when a regime has changed with voting. I mean, I know. I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm not
putting you on the
trying.
spot. That's not fair because you haven't studied this stuff.
Well,
No, put him on the spot because he's advocating for just voting. Because this is the problem. This guy right here is probably the average American right now that think the voting process. This is the reason why they create the left and the right, which I think both sides is foolish. So therefore, you think that you just pressing a button or going somewhere and putting a ballot in is going to change your life. But yet, our lives didn't change much from the people before us. And like I said, the only way it changes is when it changes for the people, the big people. That's the only way things change for us. And then we get a pat on the back and think that we did something righteous. Like you go from black and white TVs to color TVs. And from color TVs to HD TVs. And then now we have the internet. And like, oh, look what they gave you. They don't have this all around the world. I'm like, yeah, because that's their special interest. You get to create more money flow for them because now they can advertise to you. So yeah, you have an option. You have more options to give them whatever they need. If big corporations did not have any special interest, let's just say the internet was just the internet and we had to just pay for internet and there was no sponsorships. It was no advertising to people. It was no money that the big corporations are getting from it. You ain't going to have the internet. You can forget that. Because why are we pushing for this unless the big corporations can have, and then they steal all your data. And they steal all your data and then sell all your data. Imagine that. And this is public record, especially with things like Facebook, where they took all your records and then they sold it off. So if they're going to take your stuff and they're just going to sell it off anywhere, how ludicrous it is for us to actually think that the voting process is actually in our special interest. No, we get the byproduct of whatever they get. And it just so happened our byproducts could be more beneficial than it was maybe, let's say, 5 years ago. But it's 10 times more beneficial to the big corporations. They get more and more and more stuff on you. Now they have AI system, all your pictures, your photos. They can create anything they want and more by just knowing your human behavior.
No, I'm not trying to, murder politicians. I'm not trying to do what I don't like that others do that I would like to change. So I want somebody because I'm pissed off that they're somebody else.
Yeah.
It's not the way that I think, but that's fine. We think differently.
I think even if you don't want to somebody, don't vote. Voting is you complicitly saying, I support this system, and I don't support it anymore. I don't. We're killing people in Yemen. We're murdering like families in Yemen that aren't associated with any sort of terrorist thing. It was just an oopsie when we kill a wedding party. And Obama, the fucking hope change guy, just refused to comment on it. That's cool. Do what you want. It's not going to change. Your voting is not going to change that. I know one way that it'll change. I can look at history and tell you this is the way things change. Look at whenever a black guy gets shot. It's like, oh, it's bad. If this is a riot, no one comments on it.
That's some truth to that too. Although I think that the media spins that in a different way. The media will take that, like the black guy being shot, because in certain ways, it's crazy. The George Floyd riot, when that thing was happening, George Floyd, how long was George Floyd on the ground? Let's have some fun. George Floyd. Let's have some fun with this. Let's have some fun. George Floyd, knee on neck, right? 9 minutes and 29 seconds, right? So on May 25th, 2020, Minneapolis, I forgot it happened even in Minneapolis. What the hell am I trying to say? Minneapolis. I can't speak. Minneapolis. Wow. On May 25th, 2020, Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd by kneeling on his neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Okay, let's not even debate that, right? Let's go to knee on neck, white man. Watch this, white man. Keep in mind, this was 9 minutes and 29 seconds. No. There you go, right here. The killing of Tony Timper, right? On August 10th, 2016, this was 4 years prior to George Floyd. In August 10th, 2016, Anthony Tony Alan Temper, that's a long name, a 32-year-old unarmed white man was killed in Dallas, Texas by police officer Dustin Dillard. Officer have responded to the call that Temper requested aid for a mental breakdown due to the fact that he had not taken his prescription medication for schizophrenia and depression. So he called the cops on himself. That is super duper important that he already identified that he did not take his medication and he was tripping and he called the cops on himself. Okay. Dillard pushed his body weight onto Temper on the ground for around 14 minutes. Remember, we just 9 minutes and 29 seconds. I thought it was 11 minutes with George Floyd, but whatever it was. But 14 minutes after he was already restrained. So this is after he was already restrained. He put his knee on his neck, back, whatever, how you want to say it, restrained after all. And officers ignored pleas from Temper that he was in pain and he was afraid he was going to die. Temper's death was ruled homicide due to stress of being restrained and extreme physical exertion and toxic effects of previous, I can't say this word, white substance use, right? All of this together, even his toxicology report, right? When it comes to George Floyd, I don't know about this white substance use overdose. But when it comes to George Floyd had enough fentanyl in him, I think, to take down a couple horses. And even in the video, you see him, because he was with his dealer when he got caught. Even in the video, he had the pill or something in his mouth. I think he spit it out. In the video, you can see this. In the video, also, the officers was trying to help him because he's a big dude. I forgot how tall he is, but he big, and them cop cars is really small. So he was in back of the cop car, right? They tried to put him in back of the cop car, but he was resistant. He said he's not going in there. And then he said he just wanted to be put on the ground. So they got him out. So instead of him going inside the car, the first set of officers, really nice. They was like, all right, cool. And they put him on the ground outside. Now, keep in mind, you're still going to jail, buddy. So they took that, and then after, they was like, all right, well, now we have to take you to prison, so you have to get in the car. That's when he started tripping. And then he started tripping and saying he was claustrophobic and he can't breathe. But he was saying that before that he was even on the ground. He's been saying that. And they tried to help him by sitting him down on the curb. But that don't mean you get exempt from going to jail, right? So the officers had to do whatever the officers had to do. Now, when it comes to Derek Chauvin, we're talking about the kneeling on the neck, or if he died from that, or he died from the fentanyl overdose. But they were saying that he was going to end up dying anyway because he had too much fentanyl in his system. So we don't know if it's the overdose or if it was the neck. That doesn't even matter. The point is that it wasn't a big hoopla. When you hear about Tony Temper, when you hear about this guy, you're not going to, this is 4 years prior to that. And it was on his neck for 14 minutes and he was mentally ill and he called the cops himself. But the media was spinning, even talking about how George Floyd was calling for his mama when he said he want mama or something like that. And it just so turned out that they knew that mama was his girlfriend. But that's not big enough news for the media. The media needs they need people to riot. They need to say that he was even screaming for his mother when they knew that he wasn't screaming for his mother, he was screaming for his girlfriend. Once again, this does not mean that whatever was happening to him, if it was the knee on his neck, was right. But it just shows you how the media likes to spin things, even though they have the exact evidence and know exactly what it is that the man was saying and who he was calling. They would spin it in a way to rile people up, to get these riots to happen, these things. So they know when to use the anarchy. That's the point. When they want people to riot and they want people to do some stuff to cause some confusion, they'll do it. But never for the main things. Because if we can do that for George Floyd, then I think we can do that for all the child victims that's in the Epstein files. And then them lying and gaslighting the public about things not being in the Epstein files or the Epstein files not existing. I think you can riot for that. If you can riot for one person being ended by the police officer or drugs, however it went down, you could riot for tens of thousands of children missing in America, which they are. Tens of thousands of kids missing. I think it was like over 300,000, something like that, when the border was crossed in 2020 Biden era. You can riot for that. And you can also riot for the victims now today saying that like they was trafficked and things of that nature. And kids are still being hurt today. I think we can riot for that as well, right? But they won't want to spin it like that. They can get people riled up if they wanted to, but they choose not to. Why?